Thanks for tuning in to my interview with Claudia Rolnick of the YouTube channel Claudia Glows. So my first question for you, and I get this a lot. So I don't know if this question may sound strange. It seems now kind of strange to me, but it comes up a lot. Is NMN for women too?
I think absolutely. I think it is for any being with declining NAD levels. I give it to my dog, who is going to be 13. But I think the thing we have to remember as women, we have a little bit more going on as we age, as you guys do, unfortunately. So I have a lot of women asking me, I have been taking NMN for so long and I'm not feeling any different. But if we have hormonal imbalances, if our estrogen is low, if our progesterone is low, even our testosterone, as women, we have testosterone as well. If our thyroid, our adrenals aren't functioning properly, then NMN will help the declining NAD levels, but it is not going to fix everything. So I think as women, it's a little bit more complicated, but definitely I think women can tremendously benefit from NMN or NAD precursors.
And how long have you been taking it?
I have been taking NAD precursors for about 2.5 years now.
Okay. And you started with NR, right?
I started with NR. I knew nothing about NAD or NAD precursors. And I saw a YouTube channel where a woman took NR and I was intrigued. And I ran it by my doctor. And he said, sure, NR, I sent you some. I tried it, took it for a while, and then learned about NMN, that might be a better way to go, switched to NMN, and I have been taking NMN ever since.
You felt a difference then, so because a lot of people ask NR or NMN, but you went through both. I never took NR, so it's hard for me to answer that.
I felt a difference with NR as well. Immediately, I would say within days. I think that my NAD levels were quite low. I didn't test them, unfortunately, back then, but I do believe they were quite low. So I did notice a difference fairly quickly with the NR. And I took it for, I want to say 3 months. But when I went to the NMN, those benefits I noticed were amplified. So I noticed even greater benefits taking the NMN. Now, that could be because with NMN, I started with 500 milligrams, then went up to a gram. With the NR, I only took, I believe it was 250 or 300 milligrams. It could be that, or it could just be that NR has to be converted into NMN before it gets to NAD, and you just give your body a little bit of a break, not having to do that.
I know that there's some bidirectional conversion going on in the body, but that's the main part of the process that David Sinclair talks about. So it's good that you clarified that as well, because there's a lot of confusion that's been caused by other channels who will not be named today.
NR will turn into NAD eventually, but the body has to put another molecule on it to turn it into NMN, and then NMN gets turned into NAD. So why not just cut out the middleman, go straight to NMN?
And I agree. I had such great results, and after reading up on it, NMN was a newer molecule, and I was hearing the same things as you, and I couldn't be happier. I'd stopped twice because I ran out for 5 days, 2 times, and I vowed never to run out again because it doesn't take long to start coming back down to earth.
I have 2 containers in my fridge just in case I don't want to run out either.
And you keep them refrigerated.
Yes.
Because one lab, I've always said, one lab, they did a lab test where they left it unrefrigerated, but in a dark place, and they tested a year later, and it was still just as powerful or just as active. Hadn't lost its purity. But
that's good to know.
But it can't hurt. Keep it in the fridge. Why not? I'm certainly not against it at all. Can you tell us more about your results? I know more energy. I mean, I made a list one day, and it was like 20 things, like sensitivity to hot and cold, and I'm just throwing ideas out at you. Obviously, better sleep, better focus, cleared brain fog cleared up. I mean, I quit sugar because I was sort of inspired. I felt like I was so close to something with NMN, and there was still some disconnect. And I researched a bit, and turns out sugar was the problem, because after 2-3 days without sugar, I was just fantastic. So. What kind of things did you notice?
So again, I started with NR, and within a few days, I noticed my sleep was a bit deeper. I'm not the greatest sleeper to begin with, but my sleep was deeper. I noticed more strength when working out, more endurance. And this is really hard to put in words, this overall sense of well-being. I wasn't feeling unwell before, but it was sort of a heightened sense of well-being. And then when I switched to the NMN, as I said, it was amplified. My sleep got a little bit more, little deeper, a little bit more deeper. My husband kept asking me, what are you doing lifting my weights? So I noticed I got stronger. I had more endurance. So definitely.
Just give him a good
Those were,
slap. I'm stronger. Leave me alone. That's
I
great.
didn't have any brain fog, so I didn't notice anything like that. But to me, it was definitely the sleep, the endurance, and just like I said, this kind of sense of well-being that I didn't know was missing before, but I felt even better.
I feel you're in such a beautiful, beautiful setting there outdoors, and I feel inadequate here, stuck inside. But you're bearing with us. You're doing really well because that's
I'm
so
sure it's
hot.
cooler where you are.
Well, I closed all the shutters, and I just sit here like a hermit in the dark, waiting for the heat to go away. A couple days from now, it's supposed to be a lot better. Yeah, I noticed like having like dreams. I don't know if you had like my dreams became more vivid. Just a lot of weird stuff. A lot of stuff that caught me off guard. There was a question that I was going
Well,
to.
I want to add to this. My husband is very skeptical with these supplements. He always says it's snake oil. But as I mentioned, I also give it to my dog. And obviously, to us, it can be psychosomatic, right? We can, or placebo effect. We can say, well, yeah, I'm feeling all these things because we want to. My dog obviously doesn't have that. She was really starting to slow down a little bit. She's a Chihuahua mix, so normally she's very hyper. She started to slow down. So every morning I gave her just a tiny bit of NMN in her food. She hates the taste, but she wants to eat her food. Within days, I saw her have a spring in her step again. It was amazing. And for her, obviously, it can't be placebo effect. She doesn't know she's eating it.
I did a poll on my channel just this last weekend, and placebo effect is historically, scientifically, the New England Journal of Medicine did a test. They did a human trial on placebo effect itself, and they said that the results were 35%. So 35% experience, 35% of participants experienced placebo effect.
Mm-hmm.
I did a poll this weekend asking people who were my viewers, and of the ones, because the last question was, I don't take NMN, so the last thing on the poll, but the first two, I have significant results. That was most of them. I have slight results, or I have no results, and I have no results I haven't taken. I've only taken it for 2 months, or I haven't taken it more than 2 months, or I've taken it more. 80% had results. 80% of people taking NMN in my viewer audience had results. So that's more than double what you would see typically from placebo effect. So that's kind of also undermines that placebo argument. Now it's less and less discussion placebo, because now the trials are now coming out where they're seeing results in lung tissue, seeing results and those were COVID sufferers. And then they're seeing results in muscle tissue, that it's actually strengthening the tissue. So it must be getting into the tissue. So the placebo effect is less and less.
And I have tested,
No.
I have tested my NAD levels. Unfortunately, I did not test them before starting NMN, but I tested them taking 1,000 milligrams and then increased it to 2,000 to see what would happen. And I can't 100% remember now, but I believe I had a third increase.
Wow.
So I had quite an increase, just doubling the amount of NMN.
I'm about to take my second test right now. I did the same thing. I was at 1 gram. For me, 1.5 grams seems to be the sweet spot. But I take other things. I'm taking apigenin, which reduces your CD38, which eats NAD. So it may not be necessary. I just feel great at 1.5. 2 sometimes gets me a little bit. But the more I exercise, the smoother everything feels. And you exercise a lot. I was going to ask you that question, what other wellness things you take. But first, what other supplements do you take?
A bunch. I I actually just made an updated supplement routine video, and I had to schlep them.
Give me the main
I had to
ones.
schlep them
I'll
all
link
in
to
there.
your video, so we'll get some
No, but what I
synergy
wanted
on.
to say is I was amazed when I schlepped them all in, how many there were. But as far as longevity supplements, NMN, of course, with TMG, trimethylglycine. I take quercetin. I take fisetin a few days out of the month. I also take high molecular weight hyaluronic acid. I take SIRT6 activator, which is fairly new to me. I've been taking that for about 4 months now.
Some good science recently on that from Vera's
Yeah,
lab. That was
yeah.
really encouraging because I'm like you. I don't feel anything from that when I take it. I'm taking it on faith. But
Mm-hmm.
now there's a human clinical trial. I don't know if you saw that. They're giving it to chemotherapy people recovering from chemotherapy, recovering from cancer, and
Yeah,
they're recovering faster. Like the preliminary results are really exciting. So
that's amazing.
literally realigns your epigenome. It
Yeah, that's
organizes it.
amazing.
Yeah, so that is a really exciting one that I did start taking a few months ago too. So I don't know what else you want to mention there.
I believe as far as longevity supplements, that's it right now. I do want to play around with spermidine, but to me, I don't like to take too many. I'm already taking a bunch because then I don't know what does what. So I want to give the SIRT6 a little bit longer to see if I feel something. I take some B vitamins. I take selenium and iodine daily for my thyroid. I take some magnesium and some omega-3 anti-inflammatory, and that's the bulk of it.
And I'm really similar. I'm taking a really similar stack to what you just described. I had a paradigm shift. I don't know what made you like adopt more, but I started seeing these when I started looking at the ingredients, like SIRT6 activator, it's seaweed, like sulforaphane, it's broccoli compound. It's when I started seeing these things truly as dietary supplements that are polyphenols, that are plant compounds, and some of them literally are. Some of them are synthetically made, but like SIRT6 activators directly from seaweed that they test to see which ones work, because only 20% of seaweed actually activates SIRT2 and 6. And sometimes you get the same kind and it does work and it doesn't work. So they have to test it, each one is the process. I'm sure that you're aware, but I'm just bringing that up for viewers.
You brought up Sephora Boost. That is also something I take on and off when I don't have fresh broccoli sprouts. And liposomal vitamin C is another one. That is really one of my main supplements. Is my liposomal vitamin C. I've been taking that for a long time.
Well, and if you have questions about Claudia Stack, just refer to Claudia because she's very responsive as well. She's got a great channel. She has a good community going there with comments. So check out, it's Claudia Glows, just to be clear where her channel is. And I'm sure that she'll answer questions, right? You are responsive
Definitely,
with your
definitely.
community. What other wellness? I know you're fit. You look fantastic, by the way. I didn't see a
Thank
before
you.
picture of you. Like I looked like garbage before I started taking resveratrol. You take quercetin. I started alternating between quercetin and resveratrol. And I found the rhythm really works for me. And so I take them both, but I alternate days. But when I started taking resveratrol, it made a big difference for my like overeating. I was able to maintain that better. And then NMN just was a big change for me. And I look at before and after pictures. I started posting them because I couldn't believe them. And then people started responding. That's how my channel was born, just out of those before and after pictures. But
Wow.
you look great. What else are you doing? What are your health wellness secrets beyond
Well,
supplements? Because I know you do a lot.
yeah. Personally, I don't take resveratrol. To me, it hypes me up too much. I get very hyper on it, so my body doesn't like it. But to me, I think the most important thing we can do is to eat a nutrient-dense diet. We can take all these supplements all day long, and if we eat garbage, it's not going to help. So that is something I had to learn the hard way. I wasn't ever overweight, but I was anorexic. So I went decades without adequate nutrition.
Mm.
So I eat a plant-based whole foods diet. That's not something I started. So I'm basically vegan. It's not something I started for health reasons, but ethical reasons. But it's something my body really likes. So I try to stay away from processed foods as much as possible. To me, inflammatory foods, such as dairy, is inflammatory to me. Inflammatory fats, I stay away from them as much as possible. I exercise daily. I'm a bit of an exercise addict, so you don't have to tell me I need to work out. I really enjoy it. But to me, I used to be an over-exerciser, and you know, I always think if a little is good, more is better, and I had to learn that the hard way too. That no, that's not always so. So over-exercising can be just as damaging to our bodies as under-exercising. I exercise about 30 minutes a day, and I mix it up between weights, kettlebells, HIIT workouts, running. I meditate daily. That's something that's really important to me because I have a very hyperactive mind. So that's something I started a few years ago, and that has made a big impact on my health. I also try to just be as physically active as I can outside planned activities. So I take the stairs instead of the elevator. I walk my dog. I walk to the grocery store, those sort of things. And I also try to watch my emotional health. We can't separate the body and the mind. So watching what I think, what I allow myself to consume with my mind, not just with my body, that is also very important to me. So those are the main things I do
There was
for health.
that is all great. But there's the only thing that I don't really mirror you with is I still exercise probably too much, but I feel great doing it, and I have maybe it's the hyaluronic acid. I recover every day. I get 3 to 5 hours in every day, but it's different stuff. It's stretching for a half hour. I've become a big advocate for stretching, which I know you're a yoga instructor, if I remember correctly. And so I know that that's big for you as well. But I'm also into walking. Like I'll run, but I'll walk for 20 minutes. I just believe in this kinetic exercising where you start to get your energy going and it's harder to stop than it is to keep going. So then I kind of build on it and ride it out throughout the day. Plus, to me, it's also an experiment because I'm trying to see how physically fit, how fast I can run, how well I can play tennis. I'm curious if we both have turned back the clock somewhat, in our activity, whether or not we're technically younger. We're living youthful lives, which is what we want at our ages, I think, right?
Well, I think that's another thing that helps me stay younger is I don't think of how old I am. I mean, obviously I know how old I am, but to me, I have a lot of friends that are the same age, some are even younger, and they say, well, now that I'm that age, now I'm old. And I think that's so damaging. It's a number. So that is also something that is very important
No, but
because,
I think when you're feeling it physically, it's hard. Then
yeah,
it
but
takes
you
its
can feel it
toll.
physically in your 20s. When I was anorexic in my 20s, I felt
Mm,
a lot worse than I do now.
that's a
So
good
if you take
point.
good care of yourself, then age really becomes a number. My dog, for example, yesterday at the park, somebody said, "Oh, how old is she?" And I said, "She's going to be 13." And the lady went, "Oh my gosh." I said, "Yeah, she doesn't know it." That's the trick. If we start believing we're old, then we're going to be old.
You're not the first person to give NMN to their dog, and they had a very similar story. The dog couldn't go up the stairs at the house
Hmm.
anymore, and they started giving it NMN, and 2 weeks later, it ran up the stairs. So
Really?
it's just like, that's not, like you say, that's not placebo. I love that. I love those kinds of stories because
Yeah.
don't have a dog right now, but I definitely have had dogs in the past and just love them to death. They're so awesome. So another thing, intermittent fasting, or what I'm calling caloric restriction now, where I eat during a window every day. What is your take on, we talked a little bit about that before, but what's your take on that?
You and I talked about this. Like you said, it is not something that I practice, mostly because I have a history of an eating disorder. I am completely recovered now, but I don't ever want my life to revolve around when to eat and when not to eat again. I have learned to listen to my body, and I eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full. And also working with so many women over the years, I've been a personal trainer for 27 years. I know how many women have not necessarily an eating disorder, but disordered eating. And you tell them, listen, you can only eat this many calories or at these times of the day, and they happily do it to just restrict themselves and hate themselves a little further. And I would rather have somebody eat when they're hungry and stop when they're full and learn to listen to their body. So I know there are great studies behind intermittent fasting. I know it's beneficial, but it's not something I personally practice.
I love that you said that because there's a lot of talk about intermittent fasting, but you're doing so many other wellness things. You're eating so well and you're exercising so much and you look fantastic and sound fantastic. And so I think it is keeping these things in perspective and not having to treat it as a checking every box kind of approach is really healthy and really important. And exactly the reason I wanted to talk to you, so that women in my audience could say, oh, and for the ones that applies to, I think that's a really great statement. So I'm really glad that you said that. Talking
Well,
about,
one more thing on intermittent fasting in women. Again, as I said earlier, we have a little bit more going on as we age as women, and so for a lot of women, intermittent fasting, because of the imbalance in hormones, is really not the best idea.
mm,
So they think they have to do it because everybody talks about it, but they start feeling worse because their hormones are so imbalanced, their blood sugar is imbalanced because their adrenals are too weak, their thyroid isn't functioning. So intermittent fasting is definitely not for everybody,
I love
I
it. I
think.
love that you brought that up, and really thank you for that. And a lot of people, I think, will appreciate that. Male viewers who are practicing wellness and pursuing anti-aging, but also concerned with their appearance. You know, if they want to feel younger, it helps to feel younger when you look in the mirror and you look younger. Do you have any specific advice? Because I've looked at your channel and you have such a breadth of knowledge and you cover so many great topics. I'm saying beauty advice for males, but keep in mind, I'm not talking about beauty for vanity purposes. I'm talking about
Yes.
beauty for health purposes, looking
Yes.
healthy, healthy skin, healthy hair, healthy face. What would you say to our male viewers and to women, but what would you say to male viewers who don't
Well,
get to
again,
talk about it enough, probably?
I would say, first of all, nothing replaces a nutrient-dense diet. So, we can eat crap all day and take supplements, and it's not going to help us much. So eating a nutrient-dense diet, really eating real foods, getting enough fiber, getting enough phytonutrients, enough minerals, enough vitamins, so our body can actually do what it needs to do, can produce collagen, can give us energy. I think that is really the most important thing. Managing your stress, prioritizing sleep, I think those things are the most important as far as health, but also the way we look. With men, and I see that in my husband, sunscreen, I think, is really important. Staying out of the sun as much as possible and wearing
Interesting.
sunscreen. And my husband, he fights me on this. He has a little bottle that has an SPF of 15, and he takes the tiniest drop and he, puts it all over. And he's like, I have sunscreen on. And he's gorgeous. He's younger than I am, but when he's my age, his skin is not going to be that nice anymore. And I tell him, babe, do you know how much sunscreen you need? Now, sunscreen in the United States is regulated by the FDA. It's a drug. And to get the amount of sun protection that is advertised on the bottle, you need it's a bit more complicated, but about a half a teaspoon for the face and neck alone. So my husband probably uses a half a teaspoon all year combined. And so I think that is something for men with sunscreen, because it's not just about the skin being healthy and looking good, but skin cancer is rampant. And
So
if your
what's
skin...
go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, the first part of it was what I boiled that down in my mind to what you put on the inside shows on your outside.
Mm-hmm.
So eat healthy, but what you should put on the outside is sunscreen.
Sunscreen. I mean, you can put all kinds of expensive lotions. Most of them don't do anything. You could use a little bit of vitamin A, which has science behind it. You could use some vitamin C, which has science behind it. But sunscreen is really the most important beauty product for men and women alike.
I'll ask about one more supplement and then we'll wrap this up. But what is your take on hyaluronic acid? What is your experience there?
Externally or internally?
Both.
You said
Either.
supplements, I would say internally. Externally, I'm not the highest fan of it. My skin doesn't really like it. I use it to microneedle, but that's a whole nother video. But internally, I have really noticed a difference. I have really noticed a difference in my joints. I don't have bad joints, but I have a bit of cracky joints because I used to run way too much, and I have really noticed much better lubrication. I have noticed it on my skin. So I'm a big fan of high molecular weight hyaluronic acid.
Yeah.
And looking at the studies behind it, it being anti-cancer and all of that, it's definitely something I take daily.
And Vera Gorbanova was the one that discovered that in the naked mole rat, that they had these high concentrations of it. Yeah. And that's what, again, inspires so much trust with her SIRT6 activator, because she was so right about taking as a supplement hyaluronic acid that I figure, well, maybe she's right about this one too. So go ahead.
I have another beauty tip for men.
Oh, great. Give it to me. I mean, us.
I don't know if this is a European thing. I've lived in Europe for the last 5 years again. Cut your hair in your nose and your ears. I mean, it is not an attractive look when you have a bushel coming out of your ears, out of your nose. That's a simple one. Cut it yourself. Have your wife do it.
I don't think I have any.
I'm not talking to you.
I cut it. I do.
But that is
I'm up at the camera like this, and she's saying, you need to cut it, Marcel.
I'm not talking about you. I see it quite frequently. And I think, come on, it's not that hard. Just take some scissors, trim a little bit. So that's an easy one.
There you guys out there, you get some great advice from the attractive Claudia. The channel is Claudia Glows. I hope we can chat again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me. That was fun.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your trip out of Paris, away from Paris.
Thank you very much.